the transfer needs for Premier League clubs this season. I mean, Nick's already preempted it there. We'll talk about Harry Kane, Declan Rice. There's a lot of talk about where some of the biggest players in the Premier League right now might be moving to, and who needs what in the window. I mean, which clubs do you think will be busiest, Nick, based on their needs, what they did this season, and kind of, I guess, where they're at in their development, right? That's a big thing about this. It's, maybe adding just a couple of really good players in key positions rather than a huge overhaul. But some of the top 6 clubs in the Premier League probably do need a huge overhaul, right? So it's going to be a really intriguing summer. Where do you see the most business happening?
Yeah, this is one of those quality and or quantity situations, because there are teams you could see doing a lot of business. And the other thing is, you never know when someone's going to swoop in and did what Chelsea did last year. You would have expected them to make some moves with, Rudiger and Christensen being forced to leave, but would you have expected their roster to look as different as it did? Would any of us have pegged Raheem Sterling to make such a big move and then have it be a relatively inconsequential one? So I guess I want to focus more on Manchester United as the team that could be both busy in quantity and quality. I think, I know they have Martinez and Varane, but I think we can all agree, as much as Lindelof showed himself, there'll probably be a move at center back. There may be a left back move, at least for depth, behind Shaw. We know they're going to address the midfield, and it seems very likely that they're going to have a new center forward. So if you ask me which one's going to make a big splash and a number of splashes together, it would be Man United.
Yeah, I agree with that. And also it's intriguing around their situation, right, Andy, with the ownership. And we're not sure if the Glazer family are going to sell the entire club, if they're just going to get some investment and sell part of it. So they need to get that wrapped up pretty quickly, right? So Erik ten Hag clearly has his targets for this summer, but they need to get that figured out fast and try and get up to that next stage, because we know they're back in the Champions League. The squad's going to need strengthening. And Nick's mentioned it there, pretty much throughout the spine of the team, centre-back, centre midfield, and the number 9, that's where United have to strengthen. So any other teams you think have to do a similar rebuild or similar additions this summer, and anyone you got your eye on?
Yeah, one final note on United there, possibly also a goalkeeper as well. All 3 of them out of contract this summer. Now, David De Gea might resign and keep him there for more seasons. But again, the spine for Manchester United, and they did great last summer. I think that's something that we kind of have overlooked a little bit this season, is they've restructured kind of the front office side of things, the transfer side of things, the business side of things, and they had a good window. They gave Ten Hag some of the players that he needed. They gave him a good base to build on in the first season. And so now going into this summer, it feels like they're in a position of strength versus kind of a position of desperation that they were in last summer. So that's, Manchester United might have grown up and matured in their approach and the way that they operate as a football club, and that's that's a little bit scary, I think, for everybody else in England. On clubs that might do a lot of business, I mean, I don't know how you can look at anybody but Tottenham and say that they might have an entirely new team come next summer. Aside from Harry Kane, there's not a ton of players in that squad that have value at the moment to be sold on for a significant amount of money, and the player that does have that value has only 1 year left on his contract, and so it's a very interesting situation. We've been over this multiple summers in a row now with Harry Kane and Spurs. Is he going to go? Is he going to stay? But they need a backup striker. They need at least 1 or 2 wingers. They need a couple of central midfielders. They need Rodrigo Bentancur to come back from his torn ACL. They need a right back. They need a left back. They need at least 2 center backs, and they probably need a new goalkeeper. And so we could legitimately be looking at, if they had the money of Chelsea, we could be looking at them doing exactly what Chelsea did last summer and in January, and putting together a whole new team. And we saw how that resulted on the field for Chelsea. A 12th place finish. So it could be a busy summer followed by a rough season, I think, for Spurs.
Yeah, I mean, they just have the small matter of a sporting director and a manager to figure out before they start spending as well. So a busy summer for Daniel Levy, it would appear. Chelsea, I feel like they're going to be busy with Mauricio Pochettino coming in. I mean, even though they've got so many incredible players in that squad and other players coming back, Lukaku potentially, it feels like they're going to have to plug some serious gaps, probably in midfield and even defensively as well, to kind of fit the way that Pochettino likes to play, the high intensity, the pressing. There's going to be a lot of players leaving Chelsea. We know that and we know he loves to operate with a lot of younger players as well. So I'm excited to see what they do, and if Pochettino is given sort of full control over deciding which players come in and out, because there are still a lot of people involved at Chelsea behind the scenes, and I feel like that's been kind of the problem with their recruitment over the last couple of windows, that there's not been a clear plan or identity. But with Poch in charge now, there clearly is going to be that, and there's going to be a clear playing style. So they're going to have to get players that fit that very well. Liverpool and Arsenal, I feel like they're going to be busy in certain areas, right? Midfield seems like key for both of those teams, Nick, and probably centre-back maybe for Arsenal, or just trying to just see how they can possibly improve on this season. For Liverpool, I think it's in midfield, but for Arsenal as well, it seems like they're in a straight battle with Man United for Declan Rice at the moment. And if you were Declan Rice, which one of those two giants would you go to?
Oh, it's a good question, right? Listen, all signs have been seemingly to Arsenal. I think it makes sense in the very direct sense that he is, I think, the sort of player who both the media and fans can rally around as a pivot point, maybe take some of the pressure off of some of those other pieces. We see this with England national team players, especially England national team starters. They carry that sort of gravitas, and Declan Rice is used to carrying that for an entire team. And West Ham is no small club, right? Now the question becomes how used to it can he be? How quickly can he adapt to the focus that will be a bigger scenario such as Arsenal? And I think, honestly, I don't want to take this in too weird of a tangent, but it's one of the reasons I'm so excited about the final that West Ham plays in, because it's going to be an experience for Rice and a couple other players who could catapult both their experience and how we view them as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think when we look at the players, right, Andy, who could be on the move this summer, obviously Jude Bellingham seems like he's going to be going to Real Madrid. It seems like Harry Kane's going to stay at Tottenham for the final year of his contract. I'm sure Manchester United will try very hard to get him, but I don't think they're going to spend the money that Daniel Levy's going to demand for Harry Kane. And considering he's in the last year of his contract, it seems like Kane might just see it out, stay in the Premier League and see what options are there this time next year. But Declan Rice is the one, right? He's almost that transformational piece where I couldn't believe his age, how much experience he has, captain of West Ham, regular for England. I'd argue that in the world, probably under the age of 25, he's one of the best, if not the best, two-way midfielders. He can do it all. He can drive a team on, does all the defensive work, and just controls the tempo of games. So I'd really like to see where he's going to go next season. But is there any other players that really catch your eye or that we have to keep an eye on this summer?
Yeah, on Rice quickly, I think United makes a bit more sense. And I think there's a little less, weirdly enough, a little less pressure if he goes there. Because if he goes to Arsenal, it's suddenly his midfield. He goes to United, Casemiro's there already as kind of the safety net and the foundation of that midfield. And we saw how good of a season that he had. And so it feels like, at least on day one, if Rice turns up at Old Trafford, there's a little bit less expectation on him to be that transformational player in a midfield for a team that, I know Arsenal finished second. It still feels like there's a big leap that they need to make, though, if they want to be a team that wins the Premier League. It feels, and obviously Manchester United have a gap that they have to make up as well, but it feels like they have more of the pieces that are in place, and they have more of a pathway to get there than it does for Arsenal. Not to say that Arsenal's season was kind of a blip on the radar, but it feels like Manchester United now in their current, the way they're currently built, have a little bit more staying power. On players that are potentially moving this summer, I mean, I don't want to jump ahead in the running order here, but how can you talk about anybody else but Lionel Messi at this point? It's maybe not Premier League related, but the greatest player of all time. Again, for like the fourth, fifth summer in a row, is he going to leave? Is he going to go? Or is he going to stay? He's definitely leaving this summer. So I'm going to be very, very curious to see how that whole thing turns out.
Yeah, of course. PSG have confirmed that Messi is leaving at the end of his contract this summer. So he's done in the French capital, Nick. And there's a lot of speculation about where is he going to go. Is he going to go back to Barcelona? Can they afford to do that given the financial issues that they've had for a long time now? Is he going to go to Saudi Arabia? Apparently there's a contract offer on the table for him to go and play against Ronaldo in Saudi Arabia. And Major League Soccer, into Miami, that is always the one that's been cropping up for many years now. What do you see for Messi? Where would be the next, I guess, logical step for him? It seems like Barcelona would be the great ending, right? The way it ended last time. He was kind of forced out. I mean, I'm playing under Xavi going back there now. Surely that would be the great, almost Michael Jordan-esque fairy tale comeback.
Yeah, it would. I think the only way that happens, and there have been conflicting reports as to whether it's possible, is if it's on loan from someone. The money that's being talked about with him to go to Saudi Arabia, I cannot imagine that they're going to be like, okay, now, but also go over there. Whereas, I think about the great loans of MLS, and I know that it's been quite a while since we've really seen it, but Thierry Henry going back to Arsenal, Donovan to Everton, and of course Beckham to PSG, or was it Milan? Either way,
it's both.
They kept these players in the highlighted for MLS when they were not with MLS. And the idea of Messi maybe putting in 6-7 games down the stretch for an Inter Miami team who, quite frankly, isn't very good, and then joining Barcelona for the stretch run of a Champions League. I don't know. I think that makes a certain amount of sense. It doesn't necessarily tick all the sporting merit boxes. It doesn't exactly make you feel good. In fact, the fact that Messi wanted to be a one-club player in Europe and now could be, talking about 3, 4, 5 clubs over the course of his career, that doesn't feel great. But I do like the idea of, if it's possible, of him going to Inter Miami or wherever in MLS and going on loan to Barca.
Yeah, I love that. I think seeing him back at Barca in a functioning, stable team that they have now on the Xavi, a team that defensively is very good and will put him in the right positions to win games for them, like we saw with Argentina at the World Cup. Even though he's coming towards the end of his career, he's still very capable of playing that role, as just causing havoc and delivering in the key moments for teams that have it figured out defensively and have clear roles. So he has that. If he was to go back to Barcelona, if they can somehow figure it out, I think that would be the fairy tale kind of ending that we'd all want to see. But yeah, that would be something. That really would be something. So this summer's going to be something, though. We talked about so many big names there, so many big teams across the Premier League and across Europe. So head over to Pro Soccer Talk on NBCSports.com for all the latest transfer news, the needs, analysis, reaction. We'll have so much for you covered all summer long.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long. For even more Premier League content, from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock and be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend on USA Network and on Peacock. We will see you over there.